Hey there, this is MJ with a quick content warning that may contain some spoilers. If you want to avoid the spoilers, skip ahead a few seconds. That being said, there is an infant in this episode that suffers some physical harm. It happens towards the end of the episode. Take care of yourselves, and thanks again for listening. Previously on the Beam Chronicles.
Behind Kevorkian's door, the dungeon of the dungeons, only accessible by Howie, which mysteriously distorted my otherwise crystal clear sixth sense, featuring 3 pulses, 2 unknowns. JT, I wanted brain and jar. One stipulation, closed ecological system. That way I'd die when my body died.
They will respond to the effort, my friend. We do not have to be in opposition to each other.
I threw myself against the door. It was enough force to turn coal into a diamond, but this door, this regular wooden, dead-bolted door, didn't budge. At least now I knew he wasn't bluffing about being able to contain me.
Anyway, Howie wants us to do a new commercial. He specifically requested Charlie.
Fucking no.
You've been gone for 8 months. I mean gone. 8 months. Why did you come back?
My task was completed.
And that task was?
Not your concern.
Of course not.
I will ask you one last time, Kevorkian. Will you fix it or not?
We all had no fucking clue what he was on about. Fix it? Fix what?
But Sydney was a variable in Fate's grand design, an unforecasted variable. When he finally lifted his gaze, Howie directed it right toward me. I simply glared back at him.
Welcome to Beam, Agent Kevorkian.
The scuttlebutt around equalizations was before Beam. Howie set out to resolve a forecast. The story goes that he busted an anomaly before Tanaka or anything, and he keeps it around as a trophy or a reminder of how far he's come. Madman once told me he caught a glimpse of it. He said it looked like an anthropomorphic goat in a long blue cloak. He probably just drank too much cough syrup and stumbled through the dead-bolted door accidentally.
Clifton Hodge. He was not the first to attempt stepping into that hero's role, but I think he got the closest. That was most likely why he was dead. Hodge was assassinated on New Year's Day.
We aren't going to rule out the idea that Fisher was just the bullet in Hodge's assassination and continue looking for the gun. Or possibly even the shooter.
Charlie regrouped in front of Foon, then collapsed onto the ground.
See how you like it, bitch?
No!
I think I'm gonna die, JT.
We'll be eagerly waiting for you when you wake up.
These are the Beam Chronicles with your host, MJ Dooney. Book 2, Compromise, Chapter 23, Charlie Shayde.
Howie shut me off. I didn't know if Sid pieced it together while we were fighting with Foon. In fact, I doubted it. It all happened so quickly mid-flurry, then pow. Brain in jar, frozen on the ground while I sixth Foon slam a mace into my body, powerless to move or stop it. I burned to a crisp, and it was Howie's fault. He killed me. As directly as Prophit ever killed anyone, maybe more so. He didn't just let me die, he was an active participant. He held me down while Tyler punched. Was it punishment for trying to extort him? Once he knew Jackson was recovered and on the way, he had the luxury of letting me get hit because he knew Foon would still be thwarted. Or maybe my injuries were to piss off JT, motivate him to show Foon no mercy. Who could be sure? We were all pieces of his production, arranged strategically to kill each other while he pulled strings behind the scenes. Conveniently for once, I did not have to play the guess Howie's motive game, because he was sitting in a chair at the end of my bed, crossing his legs so that his thighs were tight, nervously stroking his goatee. And when he noticed my eyes were open and I was staring at him, he smiled with a hopeful softness in his eyes. It was atypical enough to make me uneasy.
Good morning, Charlie. I was wondering if we could have a little chat. I'm sure you have a ton of questions for me.
I glanced down at my body. Still burned up and gruesome, but I felt no pain. In fact, I wasn't just completely numb, but paralyzed from the neck down. I tried to move, to get up and run, but none of my limbs would work. This room felt weird. hard, cold, drab, and quiet. I felt caged. I wanted to get out of it. And then that's when it struck me I couldn't even six anything. That's probably why it felt like such a heartless tomb. It had been years since I was just a regular person with no sixth sense. In a bizarre sort of way, it felt kind of nice, the peace, the normalcy, but mostly it was just lonely and terrifying, and without my sixth sense, grouping would be impossible. But pointless anyway, since I'd just be a quadriplegic once I got away. He had me contained, stuck here, talking to him, without another option. Was the entire reason that you killed me so that we could have a little chat?
Well, yes.
Are you serious?
But technically, I didn't kill you.
You shut off my brain in the middle of a fight, you bastard.
Yes, all right. You are right. I'm sorry.
He said it so uncharacteristically sincere, sympathetic and genuine. Again, it gave me pause.
I'm trying to keep this civil and honest, and yes, I turned off your brain so that I could secure a moment of private conversation with you. Drastic, admittedly, and cruel. So I apologize for the methods as well, but I knew I could bring you back. And by the way, in my defense, I think it's a statement on the frail, twisted state our relationship has gotten to, that these are the circumstances required to get you to talk to me.
I couldn't stand looking at him, so I shut my eyes. Do you have any fucking clue how badly that story makes me not want to talk to you? Or are you so detached from humanity at this point you think anything you just said made any practical sense?
Charlie, please, ask me a question.
What?
A question. You're disoriented and confused. I'm flustered, don't know where to begin. I want to mend fences. I want to make this whole again. So you direct it. You steer. Ask me something. Please.
Without another option, I berated him with what he wanted. Fine. What the hell is this? Why can't I move? Where am I? What the fuck is going on, Prophet?
You can't move because I injected you with a powerful and targeted nervous system inhibitor developed by Dr. Kovorsky.
Why? I snarled. If he wanted questions, I'd give them to him.
Because technically your body is still dead. If your nervous system were active, it would send a wireless signal to your brain that it should die as well. This was one of the stipulations we agreed upon before I had your brain removed. If your body dies, so does your brain. And that did happen, as promised. After you died, your brain was dead as well. I've already fail-safed it back, but have not done your body yet. Kovorsky's medicine is to prevent your brain from dying again. It leaves you motionless, but allows you to move your head, hear, see, and speak.
So why do it in that order? If my dead body commands my living brain to die, why not fail-safe my body and then fail-safe my brain? He sighed, interlacing his fingers and pounding his forehead.
Because if we did it that way, you would leave. This way, you cannot. Even if you manage to group away when the drugs wear off, you'll just die again. This way you're trapped. We can repeat this process until you talk to me.
That is supremely fucked up, Prophet.
Then perhaps it illuminates how much I need this conversation to happen.
Seriously, that's all you want. You just want to talk.
Yes.
Why?
Because Sydney was right. So much of the tension between us could be resolved with a little cooperation and honesty, mostly on my end. I do not wish to be your adversary, Charlie. I want to be someone you... well, I suppose trust is out of the question at this point, isn't it?
We shared an uneasy smirk, then he continued.
Look, your first instinct when Jackson died was that you had to blackmail me into saving him. It was profound for me. I know we've had our differences. I know sometimes circumstances force us into opposition. We're far from friends. We never will be. I know that much, but it was a very harrowing realization that we have gotten so antagonistic and hostile toward each other that you thought I wouldn't at least attempt to fail-safe Jackson without coercion. I do not want that sort of relationship between us. I want to clean it up. I want to one day be able to look back and say, at least I took a stab at a pleasant resolution. You know?
Just so you fully grasp your own bullshit here, you wanted to win back my faith in you and try to patch things up civilly, so to do that, you killed me. And you recovered my psyche into my dead body so I cannot escape, thereby forcing me into a friendly chat. He exhaled audibly through his nose, ran his fingers across the top of his head. I think he was just about to give up on the whole thing, rise up from his chair and leave the room, but something reminded him to stay. I didn't know what it was, but I could almost see it happen the moment he remembered why he was there, and then he was planted, firmly back in place until I got myself over his disturbed methods for securing this private moment and took advantage of what he was actually offering me. What are we even supposed to talk about?
Anything.
He said sternly, then stared at me straight-faced, so I'd know he was serious.
That's my olive branch to you, my first step toward a truce. Anything you want. You direct the conversation, you ask me whatever you'd like.
He seemed so sincere, so sure, but a man like Howie climbed to the top by knowing things nobody else did. I couldn't possibly believe he would let me in on all of his secrets. You're joking, right?
Not at all. Well, granted, there are specific topics that I am bound by a higher power not to speak about.
There it is.
Charlie, be fair. Certain things must remain secret for your safety and mine, but you may ask any question that you think of without fear of consequences. I will try to let you know everything I can if we approach one of the topics that is off limits.
Okay, but that's basically all the interesting stuff, right? He smiled broadly, tipping his head and raising his eyebrows.
You'd be surprised.
Again, it wasn't like I had a choice anyway. There were thousands of questions spinning through my head. I didn't know where to begin, nor expect him to answer most of them, so I started with something simple, just to get the ball rolling. I also already asked you where I am.
You did, yes. You're in the oubliette.
Alright, is that random-ass gobbledygook supposed to mean something to me?
I'm sorry. It's the area beneath the dungeons, behind the Kavorsky door. I know that you know about it. I don't know what you've been calling it, but the proper nomenclature, the term that I use, is oubliette.
The sub-basement. I was physically in the sub-basement. I'd kill not to be a corpse right now, to be able to get up and look around, but maybe talking to Howie when he was in such an apparently generous mood was better than exploring the oubliette myself. Why am I here?
I use the oubliette to store things that I can't talk about or show people. You're here to get fail-safed. This is the room where I perform resurrections.
The room you locked Jackson in for a week the first time he died. I casually reminded him of one of his shittier techniques for securing our loyalty.
Yes, the very same room.
He grumbled timidly, glancing down at his polished shoes. Wait, how did you know that I knew about this place? I backtracked slightly, realizing the oddness of it. Forecast? He shook his head.
Dale told me. I gave him specific instructions to inform me whenever anyone asked about Kavorsky's door. He told me promptly on my return from my sabbatical that you were acting suspicious around it.
Does Dale know about the Googleette?
Oubliette, dear. And no, Dale is a rather bland and subservient sort of fellow. He does as he's told without much skepticism as to why.
Every question he answered just reminded me of 3 more things I needed to ask him. The sabbatical, the 3 pulses, the 6 blocker. That was a good one. Something was blocking me. When I sixed the first time, something was distorting my sixth sense.
Yes, I'm aware. It's in effect now.
No shit. What's doing it? What's disabling my sixth sense?
No, that I cannot tell you.
Do you know?
Of course, I know everything. This is just one of those topics I'm not at liberty to discuss.
Wow, 5 questions in. This is gonna be fun. He chuckled, but stood firm in his refusal to answer. Will it come back, my sixth sense?
Yes, naturally. Your sixth sense is only disabled in the oubliette itself. In fact, after today, I'll probably turn off the block anyway. It was mostly ever intended to prevent you from discovering this place too soon. You probably realized before that day with Dale, you never detected it.
I nodded.
That was intentional. Forecasted, in fact. The block was supposed to crack, specifically when you were supposed to know about the oubliette, and thus, it was no coincidence that on that day the effects of the block were lessened to the point where you could make your unsteady discovery. It was the result of a forecast that you were there, thus you were intended to find out about it. All as planned.
Forecasts? That was a good question he never answered. Tell me how that works. The forecasts, how do you get them?
That I cannot tell you.
Seriously, Prophit.
It isn't up to me. I would if I could.
I glared at him as he waited for the next question, and when it was clear I didn't want to keep playing, he asked,
What do you want from me, Charlie?
You told me we were here to enlighten all the mysteries, and so far the only thing I've learned is the fucking word oubliette.
You just aren't asking the right questions.
I think I'm asking some pretty good questions.
Would you like to hear specifically what I forecasted to illuminate the nature of the process, if not the process itself?
Sure. Go crazy.
Ask me. You must actually ask.
Howie. He quietly insisted that I say the words. Fine. Howie, please tell me what specifically you forecasted for this incident, you fucking control freak. He ignored my insult.
Do you remember the commercial you didn't shoot? The only concrete thing that I forecasted was that you were to be on that set on that specific day. It was up to me, as directed by fate, to get you there, so I requested it of Peter, tracked the result, respected the boundaries of those results. The ad led you to your stylist, which led you to Trevor Long in the dungeons, which led you to the only time in Beam's history that you could have found the oubliette. Therefore, you were supposed to find the oubliette. Why? I don't know that part yet. Maybe we'll find out soon. It matters not. You were supposed to discover it on that day, and you did. Simultaneously, the ad led you to shoot Peter, which led to Jackson's blackmail, which led to Ava's new methods of handling anomalies. And beyond the fact that they have been extraordinarily effective and popular, these methods arose from the ashes of a forecast. So I could not have discouraged them, even if they weren't extraordinarily effective and popular.
Yeah, but see, how do you know? You said all you actually forecasted is that I was supposed to do the commercial. How do you determine which thing that came out of that is the thing that's protected by destiny?
I cannot explain it.
Not allowed?
No, I'm not really capable. It's perhaps as difficult as explaining sixing. Essentially just a matter of experience. Typically, the most relevant result is the intended purpose, and typically I receive further solid confirmation of this in a later forecast. It may seem imprecise, sketchy guesswork to you right now, but believe me when I say there are very telling aspects of the process that assure me along the correct path.
Aspects of the process. Elaborate on that.
I cannot.
Can we just make up like a fucking hand signal for when you're gonna clam up suddenly? I don't think I can tolerate hearing you say I cannot one more time. He smiled, extending his index finger and wound it in a circle.
This appropriate? Move it along, sort of thing?
Good. Perfect. Do that next time.
Yes, ma'am.
He chuckled at the absurdity of our role reversal. Even I had to smirk. I decided to continue my interrogation in a different area. Forecasting was notoriously a shady subject for him, and it seemed that my all-access pass was still restricted here. Without seeing the process fulfilled from start to finish, I'd never understand it the way I wanted to. Hell, even that might have been too abstract. So you left, earlier this year, for several months.
My sabbatical, yes.
Where'd you go? He wound his finger in a circle. I bit my tongue to stem the frustration. Okay, fine. Why did you go? Can you answer that? He hesitated for a moment, even picked up his finger, but then caught a glimpse of my scowl and clenched his fist, set it back in his lap.
I forecasted something that I didn't like, concerning myself, my future. I wanted to escape it.
Can't escape forecasts.
Yes, well, I know that better than most. Regardless, for this particular forecast, you would have tried as well, I assure you. And I've skated around the edges of forecast before, progressed through them on technicalities. The sabbatical was intended to do just that. Remove me from the playing fields, to give events a chance to settle out without my presence. I thought it would be impossible for it all to come to fruition without me physically being here.
Did it work? Did the sabbatical throw us off course? He glumly shook his head.
It's like you said, you can't escape them. This one is proving to be particularly challenging to work around.
Can you tell me specifically what it was you were trying to prevent, or... Yeah, okay, of course. I rolled my eyes as he wound his finger, ushering me into the next question. This is fucking pointless, Howie.
Charlie, I assure you, this is an opportunity you don't want to pass up. There are doors you haven't knocked on yet.
I moved on to a more interesting, potentially fortuitous alley. There were pulses in here, in the booblet.
Oubliette.
The oubliette, whatever. When I sixed it with Dale and Lane, I sixed out 3 heartbeats.
Excellent. This is something we can talk about.
He grinned excitedly, clasping his hands together. All right, sweet. I was legitimately both surprised and pleased. Okay, then who are they?
Well, the first is Victor.
The fuck is Victor?
Kovorsky.
Oh, right, shit. People didn't really use his first name that often.
You probably deduced that much on your own. He's lived down here since the day we busted him, for a while as a total prisoner, in a lockup, not unlike the dungeons.
Wait, for a while? You mean he's not a prisoner anymore?
Yes and no. Not completely, but in a sense. He's not permitted to leave the oubliette, but he has free reign over the area.
You trust him to just chill down here?
I don't think he can escape. It's not a matter of trust. I have specific security protocols in place to make sure he doesn't.
Such as?
It's nothing fancy, Charlie. Locked doors, alarm systems, standard procedure for keeping someone imprisoned. We've had this arrangement for years. He's never made an attempt to escape from it. I doubt he even could. Kovorsky is just an old man. A smart old man, mind you, perhaps smart enough to know when he's outmatched. Besides, his expertise in biological engineering, and that hardly helps you open a locked door.
Did he ever fix it? He furrowed his brow.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're referring to.
The day we busted him, before Sid's little sister, died. You asked Kovorsky to fix it. When he refused to...
Yes, right, that, of course.
He briskly cut me off like he didn't want me to get to the end. The part where he shot Madman Mathis, tried to shoot Caraway, made me kill Sydney's sister.
Yes, he did. He fixed it.
Can you tell me what it was? What did he fix?
I can tell you.
He nodded slowly, spoke deliberately, then took a deep breath.
It was the failsafe.
The failsafe? Seriously?
Indeed. Why are you so surprised?
No, I never thought that was a Kovorsky production. He shifted a bit in his seat and cleared his throat.
Well, technically you're right. It isn't, precisely speaking, a Kovorsky production. He didn't create it, merely perfected it. It was another one of the things he gave to Beam back when you started to prevent us from busting him. Your brain, Phil, assistance with the failsafe. That was the package. And I informed him that if any of those things failed, I would bring him in to fix them. The failsafe proved to be the most challenging of the three to wrangle, and in my attempts to operate it, I broke it. But when I requested Dr. K's assistance, he flatly refused, probably just to incite me. That's why we busted him.
And once we got him, he just did it? Changed his mind and helped you?
And no, not immediately. It was only once Sydney joined Ava that Kovorsky cooperated. He was afraid I would do something to his son and conformed to my request to protect him. To be frank, leverage over Victor was a large portion of the reason why I let Sydney join Ava in the first place.
Ironically enough, Sydney loathed his father. If Kovorsky knew that, would he have bothered helping Howie at all? Doubt it. And Howie probably intentionally kept Sydney's hatred a secret just to keep Dr. K motivated to fix the failsafe. For once, I was all for Prophit's twisted manipulation, withholding truths and using people for his agenda. It'd be hard to argue the failsafe was a bad thing. Without it, Jackson would be dead twice and me once. I was just about to ask him for details, but he spoke before I could.
The second heartbeat you detected in the oubliette belongs to an anomaly that I personally busted before Beam even started.
Oh, yeah. I'd completely forgotten this was what we were talking about. Maria's rumor was apparently true. Is he a goat? I blurted without really thinking about it, recalling Maria's tale about Madman Mathis and his ketamine-fueled vision quest into the oubliette years ago. Howie cocked a befuddled eyebrow at me, an expression of pure shock and awe that would have made me laugh if I wasn't so worried I'd derailed our productive conversation. I was just about to say something to get us back on track, but then he kept going.
He is a goat.
Wait, seriously?
How did you...
Can I see him? I blurted this out too, not really into the idea of throwing Matman or Maria under the bus for gossiping on Prophit. I was mostly joking just to protect them, but the question seemed to stagger him. Like he hesitated, as he had been a lot in this experience, but this time in a deeply unsettling way. Almost like he was looking at someone, staring at them, just to the side of me, pleading with them, communicating with his eyes. I turned my neck. There was no one there. So I cocked an eyebrow back at Prophit just as he reached to his wrist, pressed a few buttons on what looked like his watch. A screen descended from the ceiling, and once it powered on, I saw it. Some sort of live surveillance feed of the creature. It was floating in a tank, kind of like the one my brain was in, or the tank we'd brought Sydney to HQ in years ago, bubbling yellowish-green liquid. Kavorsky-esque, but shit. Okay, I think I was only focusing on the tank so much because my brain had this immediate, visceral insistence, almost like a survival instinct, to not even perceive the creature inside of it. Goat. But then, even that was just me trying to avoid the thing. It wore a long blue cloak, which covered most of its head, kept its eyes eclipsed in shadow, probably for the best. I thought about all the times I glared into Sydney's eyes when he was in the dungeons and how eerie and unsettling it was. Plus, even without the piercing eye contact, it set off every instinct in my body to get away from it. The protruding snout of some sort of beast, the curly ram's horns piercing through 2 holes in the hood of the cloak, the yellow fur on the 3 clawed hands, and the hoof-like feet attached to long bent legs. I'd seen some fucked up motherfuckers in my time as an equalizer, and frankly, it was hard to throw me on appearances alone, but maybe it was something more than this creature's appearance, his energy, his aura. Even through the screen of Howie's surveillance system, it pierced my mind, made me want to go. I didn't even know where. How big is he? I couldn't interpret the scale of it all from the image on the screen.
Quite large. A few inches taller than Sydney.
Is he dangerous? He shook his head.
No, not anymore. He was before I stopped him, but now he is heavily sedated. Honestly, he's been out so long, I don't even know if he's still alive.
Why is it so... I couldn't quite articulate the question I wanted to ask, but Howie seemed to recognize the impending doom I couldn't escape looking at the beast.
He's doing that, the disquiet in your gut. He does it to me as well. His anomalistic capacities permit him to control perception, and even catatonic, he seems to possess some unconscious awareness when it's him that's being perceived, even through the surveillance camera. I think it's a defense mechanism.
Huh. Why did that almost make me feel bad for him? Couldn't even find peace in a coma. Poor guy. I started thinking about Foon. When he was desperately begging me on his knees to let him run away and escape from all of this, I glared at the monster a few moments longer, simultaneously wishing he'd leave, and wondering if maybe just nobody had ever wanted him to stay. Prophit spared me this confusing brand of turmoil, pressing the buttons on his watch to power down the screen, retract it back into the ceiling. Why didn't you equalize him if he was dangerous? I asked once it was gone.
Like I said, I apprehended him before Beam was established. I was a senator, a civilian. Busting him in itself was illegal activity. I could not commit murder, so I kept him unconscious, and I hid him until I was granted Beam.
But now, it'd be perfectly legal, albeit kind of shitty, for you to equalize him, yet you still got him sedated?
Yes. I suppose it is irresponsible and a touch hypocritical.
Yeah, well, you said it, not me. He smiled softly, scraping his knuckles together and sighing.
It's just personal. I keep him around to remind me of something important. The process of busting him, I learned a very valuable lesson from it. It's foolish, but actually seeing him reminds me of that lesson, so I look at him, and during the times when I need to remember it most.
What was the lesson?
You wouldn't like to hear it, Charlie. You'll simply disagree with it.
Just tell me. You're on a rule of honesty here, Howie. Don't stop now. He sighed, this time much heavier.
He demonstrated that some things are inescapable, and sometimes, if the ends justify the means, that's the best you can get by on. He showed me that sometimes an extreme injustice to one individual person is acceptable if it drives you toward a higher purpose, or I guess more so if not committing that injustice drives you away from a higher purpose.
So Beam in a nutshell.
You could call him the founder, I suppose. More so than Tanaka. Were it not for him, Beam never would have come to be.
His smile was crippled, and his eyes distant as he hunched up his shoulders and leaned forward. Howie was the sort of man who basically never took off his plastered cheer, so on the occasions when he did, You could read what he was thinking all the more effortlessly. Shame, doubt, fear, anguish, guilt, and the subtlest touch of sadness. The kind you get when you realize something you cared about got lost along the way and you were too distracted to pick it up. It was a combination of several emotions that I'd never seen him wear individually, especially not when preaching about his bureau's origins, what it represented, the necessity for it. Howie had stolen too much for me to be worthy of my commiseration, but he stepped closer to it in that moment of frozen contemplation than he'd been in years.
You have to admit,
He finally broke the silence.
we've probably saved more lives than we've taken.
Oh, do I have to admit that, Howie?
No, I'm not. Don't get lippy. You know what I meant. Of all people, Charlie, you're aware and experienced enough to know that there are some anomalies in our bust history we easily saved the planet from. We dawdled on Kowarski for political purposes, but still, even stepping in when we did, saved the world. Foon, unchecked, could have been a disaster 3 times over. Fly was on his way to terrible, and part of that was our doing, yes, but just this year, Micah single? Why even Rick Fisher on ambition alone?
Rick Fisher was never acting on ambition alone. Don't throw him into this list. He read my implication clearly and humbly retreated.
Of course, I'm sorry, The point is we've thwarted an apocalypse or two just during your commission, never mind my own. Every few years, exterminating all the rats kills the one carrying the plague. The methods are forceful, yes, maybe even evil at times, but just consider the alternatives. We've done some bit of good. Surely you see that, don't you?
I refuse to grant him this rationalization. I know you're entirely too proud and too narcissistic to ever admit it, but the world is actually pretty resilient. I think it just might have found a way without you.
You're not that naive, Charlie.
I don't know, Howie. I've gotten pretty naive this last year. He smiled and then threw his back against his chair. He either couldn't argue with me, or maybe didn't want to.
In any case, the third heartbeat.
He hesitated, pounding his fists on top of each other over and over, inhaling deeply through his nose as he glanced at the ground. Even if I weren't chemically paralyzed, I wouldn't have moved. I didn't even have a guess for who this one could be. He finally looked up at me and nodded to reassure himself to talk.
The third heartbeat is the failsafe.
It was alive? That was something I'd never even considered, but now that I'd heard it, I was surprised I didn't think of it myself a few moments ago. Of course the failsafe was alive. How else would a biological engineer like Kowarski have been able to do anything to repair it? Or shit, it probably wasn't the appropriate word. Just to ensure I'm doing my due diligence here, you mean it's an actual heartbeat, right? Not some sort of mechanical pulsing fluid system that I detected and confused for a heart. The failsafe is an actual living being.
Yes.
Human?
Yes, what you sixed was a real human heart in a real human person. The failsafe is a person.
An anomaly?
Indeed.
With what, a healing touch or something? What are her?
Her.
He reluctantly whispered. What are her abilities?
It applies to more than just reviving the dead. Actually, this particular anomaly has the ability to revert a body or object to a prior state it possessed. Roll back time. The failsafe encases an object in a metaphysical membrane and extracts time from within that membrane. When they are alive, this process simply makes the person younger. When they are dead, it could return them to life. It has no impact on consciousness or memories. For example, even when Tyler got a new head, he remembered losing it. And obviously, more time is more difficult and strenuous, a higher likelihood of failure, but I have seen the failsafe reduce inanimate objects several years in age. In your case, in a moment of a few hours, it should be simple. There was an issue, however, that the failsafe could not control this ability precisely enough on its own to serve a practical purpose. It was erratic and undisciplined, occasionally destructive as you might imagine, impossible to harness, which is why I needed Kowarski's assistance.
Why the fuck was he still saying it?
He developed an apparatus that hones these abilities and directs them more specifically. With it, I can now use the failsafe to take an exact allotment of time out of any person.
An apparatus. You mean she's hooked up to like a machine or something?
Something like that.
Can she move around?
Unfortunately, no. The failsafe is unable to escape the confines of the apparatus.
Is it big? Comfortable?
No, I'm afraid it's quite a barbaric and restricting chamber, unfortunately, but necessary to utilize to the full extent.
My stomach turned over. So she's your prisoner, and your tool. Just like me, the goat, Tyler Foon, everyone. But even amidst our most open conversation to date, I wouldn't say all that to Prophet.
Charlie, that's not fair. The failsafe would be imprisoned in the dungeons at best, were it not in the oubliette, right? As an anomaly, Beam would have likely equalized it, had I not found a use. And would you prefer that I did not make it my tool and therefore would have lost you and Jackson permanently?
The way he talked about human beings made my skin crawl, or at least it would have, if I could feel my skin. That was she... I stopped to scoff, roll my eyes at my own stupid, doe-eyed naivete. Was she bad? Did she hurt anyone? He just laughed a stifled and quiet laugh, a broken laugh, like whatever was funny was only so funny because the question was so impossibly sad, such sheer absurdity.
No, she's not bad. She'd never heard a thing.
I want to see her. His eyes suddenly burned with fear. Of what? I didn't have a clue.
No, trust me. You don't.
You have to use her on me anyway, right? I want to watch the process.
I don't want to watch the process.
The fuck does that mean? Prophet, Christ, does it hurt her? This apparatus that Kavorsky built for you that makes you control her powers, when you use it, does it hurt her? He exhaled deeply, puffing out his cheeks, covering his eyes with the palms of his hands as he tried to speak as levelly as he could, but still his voice wavered.
It seems to. I'm not certain because she can't... Charlie, I am trying my best to be cooperative with your requests, so if you really want to see the failsafe in action, I will show it to you, but realize that I do so under protest, heavy protest. I don't want you to see it.
That just makes me want to see her more. I coldly ignored his fretful display. He gave me another block of silence to think it over, change my mind, but when it became clear I wouldn't, he slammed his hands into his lap and stood up.
Very well.
If it weren't for 5 years of backstory between us that insisted to me he was incapable of doing so, I would have sworn he was about to cry as he left the room. And when he returned a few seconds later, pushing a glass pill-shaped container full of bubbling green liquid in front of him, I understood why. The failsafe was inside, naked, attached to wires and tendrils and disgusting, disturbing pieces of equipment, jabbing into her skin 14 different ways for God knows what purposes. She was sprawled out like a starfish, bound to the walls of the container, like a medieval stockade, and you could see her chest move in and out ever so slightly. You could read her vital signs beeping on an adjacent monitor, but beyond that, there was no evidence of life in her body, her tiny little body. Howie, that's not really... She's the failsafe.
Yes.
She's a baby. He cracked the weakest smile I've ever seen.
Now you know why I'm so hesitant to use it.
Right. except the part where he killed me exclusively to have a conversation, knowing full well he'd have to use the failsafe. But whatever, he refused to even glance sideways at the infant floating in a jar beside him. But I couldn't look away. I couldn't stop watching her little fingers twitching up and down like she was trying to grasp for something that wasn't there. Shit. Maybe someone, maybe anyone, just to save her. How? How is that? She failsaved Jackson 3 years ago.
Yes.
But she couldn't be older than a few months.
4 months. We keep it that age to prevent complications.
He explained like he was reading a textbook, still not turning his head to catch her in his peripherals.
Before you ask, I don't actually understand how we maintain the age. It involves its own anomalistic capacities. The specifics are more Kavorsky's area.
Take her away. I changed my mind. I don't want to see it. I don't want to watch this.
We have no choice, Charlie. I have to use it on you.
Don't. I insisted as firmly and certainly as I'd ever insisted upon anything from Prophit. Don't use her.
You'll be dead if I don't.
Then I'm dead. Let me die, please. I begged him emphatically, thinking of nothing else but this baby girl.
I don't have a choice.
Don't you dare use her on me, Prophit. Don't you even dare.
Charlie, it goes very quickly, I promise.
No. Fuck you, you fucking bastard. Don't you do it. You insufferable piece of shit. Don't you dare. No. In my head, I struggled and squirmed, tried my damnedest to move a single muscle, but I was trapped on the table, grunting, grinding my teeth as he hurriedly punched in the relevant information to run his failsafe, then jammed the button to initiate the procedure.
I'm so sorry, Charlie.
God damn it, Howie. I don't want it. Don't do it. Let me die. Let her go. Let me die. I don't want it. Please. Please, Howie, please. But no matter how deeply I pleaded, it was already too late. There was so much that I wish I knew. I wish I knew who she was, who loved her, before Howard Prophit snatched her away and put her in a fish tank to keep me on the playing field. Her mom, her dad, I wished I could apologize. I wished I knew what she was like, where she was born, where I could find stuffed bear or the blanket her parents used to use to get her to fall asleep, but above all else, her fucking name. Just so I could stop calling her the failsafe. But as the apparatus fired up with the grinding whir and lights on the tendrils stabbing into her lit in a blaze of colors, she spasmed and lurched, vibrated wildly as she bent all the way backwards, muscles rigid. The tiniest, faintest cry, like a muffled, distant kitten's mew, escaped from her lips, audible through all of it. I clenched my eyes just as an orb of white light the size of a softball shot out of my body and darted toward the baby. I didn't see the process. Fuck the damn process. My eyelids were like vice grips. Not a photon of light penetrated them until the gut-wrenching scream of this tiny, defenseless child faded out, and the buzzing of the machine died back into its periodic beep. When I opened my eyes again, the charring and blistering all over my body was gone. I was back to where I was when Sid and I met Foon in the street. Even my clothes were recovered. I looked to the failsafe. I watched her shoulders twitch up a few times before averting my gaze as fast as I could. I noticed my forearm still had the black zigzagging scars on it from where I'd shot Tyler in the dungeon before the actual fight began.
Oh, my apologies.
Howie said distantly when he noticed I was looking at it.
I assumed all of your injuries were sustained during the battle. I didn't go back far enough. If you'd like me to, I can take care of...
No! Prophit, so help me God. If you ever use her on me again, I'll... The threats didn't come. All I could do was shut my eyes and bite my lip for all my fucking might. There wasn't a thing that would repay him for this sick, dark travesty he just showed me. I can't look at her.
I understand. I'll put it back where it was.
Her! I opened my eyes and stared bullets at him, not allowing the tears welling up on my lower lids to spill, not giving him the pleasure of seeing me cry. She's a person, you prick. You don't get to do that. Remove yourself from...
All right, Charlie, all right.
He exhaustedly retreated, lifting his hands to quell my rage.
Put her back where she was.
But before he wheeled her out of the room, I called out after him, as icy and emotionless as I could. What's her name, Howie?
To be honest, I've forgotten.
Of course. I waited in tortured silence for him to put her back, and when he returned, he walked up to his chair, set himself in it with a heavy exhale, recrossed his legs, and waited as well. I didn't know what he wanted. Quite frankly, I didn't care. And if my sixing weren't being blocked by some mysterious force he wouldn't tell me about, I would have taken my unclean living body and grouped to Jackson and Sydney for no other reason than to bawl my eyes out with the only two people I'd ever let see me cry. Instead, I was stuck there, waiting for the drugs to wear off so I could walk, or else waiting for him to give me back my ability to group. Either way, waiting.
Ask another question, please.
The sound of his voice made my blood boil, and I calmly shook my head.
Charlie, please.
Not really in the mood anymore, Howie.
Surely there is more you wish to know.
Ignored.
I think it would be best for both of us, in order to move past this, if you just asked me another question.
I still said nothing. When it became clear I had no intention of talking, he ran his hands through his hair and groaned.
For God's sake, Charlie, I know I don't deserve it, but spare me the torment
What's Jackson's containment method? How do you shut off his powers? He sighed, using one hand to cover his face, and with the other, he wound his finger. Is it temporary? Can you shut it on and off whenever you want? Did something go wrong that day in your office when you pushed your hand aside? He wound his finger. Where's my brain?
In the oubliette.
More specific?
Just down the hallway. I don't know the room number.
And the triggers? The buttons you press to shut it off, where are those? Wound finger. How many do you have? Wound finger. All right, fine. Did you kill Clifton Hodge?
Rick Fisher killed Clifton Hodge.
Did you order Rick Fisher to kill Clifton Hodge?
Rick Fisher didn't work for me. I couldn't give him orders.
Did you tell Rick Fisher that if he killed Hodge, he would get a position at Ava? Finger. God damn it. Fuck you, Prophet. Fuck you!
The next question, I promise. I swear it. Regardless, I will answer it.
Jackson's containment method.
Not something you've already asked.
She's a baby! You sick son of a bitch! She's a fucking baby! You want me to ask you a question? Here's my question. What the fuck is wrong with you? How in the name of God could you possibly be so fucked up?
What would you have me do? Would you prefer that I let you and Jackson be dead?
Yes, absolutely yes.
Well, I wouldn't. I need you to save humanity, and I know it's fucked. You don't think I know? My whole life, I've been forced to make hard judgment calls that I'm not proud of to ensure a better ending. And this damn well is one of those calls. Don't cast those at me, girl. You've killed children to save people you care about, and I've seen it. Don't you dare sit there and judge me for doing the same.
That was your fault, too.
Oh, is that how you get to sleep at night?
You're damn straight. That's how I get to sleep at night. How the fuck do you get to sleep at night, Howie?
You think you know so much. You stupid, stupid child.
She's the fucking child, Howie. Just a baby. There's nothing she can do. Absolutely nothing. Where's the fucking judgment call? She has a mom somewhere who thinks she's gone forever, or worse, she doesn't, and she's looking for her, and she's somebody's baby.
I know!
He yelled, louder than I've ever heard him speak, face red with rage as he threw his arms out. Once his entire body stopped shaking, he repeated it. This time softly, defeatedly, dropping his arms to his sides.
I know. Aren't they all somebody's baby?
I wanted to come up with something else, some deeper biting insult to drill into him, but nothing seemed more poignantly effective than saying it one more time. She's a baby. Howie, having essentially reestablished his cool, cleared his throat, clapped his hands together, and straightened the knot of his tie.
Well, I suppose if your mind is already made up on me, there's no reason to prolong this. I think with that attitude, we're as good as done here.
Yeah, you're goddamn right, we're done. He purposefully strode up to the door, reached for the handle, then glanced over his shoulder at me.
The drugs will wear off on their own in an hour. I trust your immense resourcefulness and cunning will lead you out on your own.
I was about to begin shamefully admitting that I couldn't group without my sixth sense when it abruptly returned to me. And with it, my aggressive confidence. I'll be fine. I might even take a look around, see if I can find my brain or any more infant slaves, if that's cool, Prophit.
Look wherever the fuck you want, Charlie. Honestly, I'm so sick of trying with your...
He faltered off, hanging his head and pounding it once softly into the door. Then he lifted it.
Do what you want.
He slammed the door behind him.
Thank you for listening to the Beam Chronicles, a fiction podcast written and produced by me, MJ Dooney. I think we're going to go 5 weeks, 5 episodes to finish this season because AP test is just around the corner, and those of you who know me personally know that I cease to exist when that happens because I'm a teacher. So I got to get everything done before then. They're all sad episodes, though, so emotionally I'm probably going to implode if I try to do 5 in 5 weeks, but I guess I kind of did it to myself. It's wild how good I am at making up shit to make myself cry. But anyway, email me, beamchronicles@gmail.com. I don't have a particular question this week. Nobody was really answering those anyway, but I like hearing from people, so whatever you want to tell me. 5 stars on Spotify or Apple, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. I think I have some good stuff to put on there this summer, potentially. So follow me now so you don't miss it. 5,000 download count. I'm at 4,788. We are crawling up there. Tell your friends. I would really love to announce 5,000 downloads just before I go on hiatus before season 3 in 5 weeks. Hopefully. All music and sound effects were sourced from the Epidemic Sound Library. Special thanks to Sergio Duarte for creating the cover art for the show, and thanks again for listening.